Hey, I'm Dean Legge. Welcome to Dog Post. We're making you a smarter Georgia fan, and this week we're going to start with the running back position. So why is this so critical? I mean, kind of what's at stake at this position for the Dogs? Well, keep in mind that really since 2012, Georgia has had their running back position pretty much figured out. Coming into this fall, though, we don't really know who will be these breakout star or just the best running back. It's a good question, actually. So let's figure that out, and at the end of the video, I'll tell you what I think will happen. Let's start with Zamir White, who was as good of who was the best high school player I've ever seen play football. It's not hyperbole. That's what it's been for me over the last 20 years. I mean, Zamir was a straight-up freak, something that guys like A.J. Green and Aaron Murray just were not like. So he was as impressive as I've seen in 20 years. Now at Georgia, after 2 ACLs, he was getting his sea legs back, and I think that Zamir is probably going to be the number one coming into 2020, certainly into the fall. Stay healthy. This could be a big year for Zamir, and probably will be Zamir's last year at Georgia. Behind Zamir, it gets a little bit more muddy, but I think probably in terms of being a pure running back, Kendall Milton is the guy to watch for me. A high-level running back from California, seeing him a couple of times out there myself. Built for the SEC game, has explosiveness, has toughness, always falls forward. He's a guy that we know that freshmen in this league can deliver at running back. We've seen that with Ty Gurley. We saw it with just a slew of different backs over the years. Even DeAndre Swift, who was the number 3 back at Georgia, but was a hell on wheels 2017 season. With Kendall, you're getting a prototypical big-bodied back who can explode and make a big play. He's going to be tough to bring down. He's the guy I would say that maybe could be a breakout player, but let's just see how he gets used to college football and college life. But there's nothing wrong with Kendall Milton being your number 2 if that's what he turns out to be. After that, James Cook is a guy to watch, but now James is not as traditional a running back as the first 2 guys I mentioned, or probably the 2 guys after that. We know in the SEC you got to have multiple backs. James Cook is a back for sure, but he's much more like a scat back in the past, something you'd call in football, or maybe even a guy that you can just flex out and out wide, make him go up against a linebacker, make the linebacker pay. Because look, James Cook is an extremely fast guy, extremely athletic, gifted. He can be used in different ways. He doesn't have to be lined up in the backfield. He can take jet sweeps. There's a lot of things that you can do with James Cook, and he's a lot of problem to solve for defenses. Then let's talk about Kenny McIntosh, who showed some serious explosion at times. I never saw him play live when he was at Florida, when he was going to high school in Florida, but there are times that Kenny McIntosh had very good games. In the Sugar Bowl, that was a quality performance from him. But really, I'm thinking back to when he played in September when Georgia was blowing people out and he got a chance to play a lot more. He showed some serious burst at times. He showed why Georgia recruited him and wanted him. So Kenny is a guy that, could he be the number 1 back? I don't think it's totally out of the question. But I think the other 2 guys I mentioned beforehand at 1 and 2 are probably a little bit more suited for that spot coming into this season. Finally, Edwards coming in from South Georgia. A kid that wanted to go to Georgia the entire time. Georgia was, waiting for everything to clear up and making way for him to come in. Guys like that sometimes can have a chip on their shoulder. They can come in and do what you really don't expect for them to do. But I think for him, the issue is going to be navigating what is a crowded backfield and a guy who's not going to be on campus early. So naturally, it makes sense that he would be your number 5 option right now. Let's see how the season progresses. Guys like that, they have to go through the learning curve of pass protection. I mean, this Georgia offense is changing. These running backs are a huge part of if Georgia will have success in the season this fall. Now, I know what Zamir can do. A healthy Zamir is an extremely scary Zamir. Okay, he's a guy you do not want to mess with. I've seen Kendall Milton do some freaky stuff. Georgia's going to be just fine if that's your 1-2 punch, and you got these other guys coming in to scare the other team. But what I think will happen is this. I anticipate that Zamir will have somewhere between 1,100 and 900 yards. That's not quite 100 yards a game. There's a lot of different reasons why. But Zamir can do so much. He's the guy I think you got to watch. I mean, I'm not saying anything earth-shaking or earth-shattering here, but I mean, I've seen Zamir play a lot, and I know that what we saw in the fall of 19 was not the guy that I have seen previously live. I mean, I'm telling you, it was as good as I've seen on a high school football field. The challenge now for Zamir is, can you get past the 2 ACLs, move forward, and go on to your NFL career? Because I think if he has a good season, that's it for Zamir. He's going to have 2 years of playing at Georgia, and that's it. Kendall Milton, not too shabby. If he's your number 1 back, that means he's beating out a pretty good Zamir White. They've got what they need at running back. This is not necessary. A key to the season is not necessarily a weakness. Georgia's just going to have to figure out where they go. Dean Legge for Dog Post, thanks for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow or up above to see the next edition of this series that we've got, the top 5 keys to the 2020 season.